Hello, and welcome to the Juneteenth 196 special 2020 edition. B-HBrilliantMinds Project, Inc. is honored to bring to you invited guests who will share their personal life stories from past to present. B-HBrilliantMinds Project, Inc. understands the importance of leaving a legacy behind after we're gone. We know that we are responsible for keeping our stories alive, creating opportunities for the voices of our communities to be heard. The Juneteenth 196 2020 special edition will capture the essence of why we are celebrating and honoring the backs and shoulders of our ancestors who we are standing on. Their faith, resilience, strength, blood, love, sweat, and tears are the building blocks for the generation to come. We are blowing into the winds of creation as we create and prepare the brilliant minds of the future towards excellence. This evening, we have Mr. Bryant, and he's going to share with you about himself. But we're so grateful and thankful to have him be a part of the 196 2020 special edition. Just a friendly reminder, if you are participating on this Zoom, call-in, or any social media forms, you give the B-HBrilliantMinds Project, Inc. the authorization to record you, your voice, your comments, and take your picture. We thank you for tuning in with us this evening. Hello, Mr. Bryant. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
How you doing, Mr. Bryant? All right. We want to thank you for being here. Well, we're going to just smoothly go through these questions because we are so grateful and thankful to have this opportunity to tell your story. And the first question that we have for you this evening is kind of about 3 and 1 kind of in the fold, but you know what we're saying. So the first question would be, tell us about yourself, your upbringing, your family, and your passion.
Sure. So my name is Brian Ovalles. I was born in New York City, and my family's from the Dominican Republic. I have 2 sisters and pretty sizable extended family. We mostly live in Washington Heights and in the Bronx in New York. I have a few people in different places, but for the most part, everybody's still there. I happen to live in Oakland, California now. I've been here for 4 years. And growing up in New York City is definitely, an adventure, to say the least. It was, in a lot of ways, I've taken a lot of that experience with me, and it's a big part of who I am. I had the fortune of going to one of the top public school in middle school in the city, and it was definitely an interesting experience to be in a school that was 400 kids, 4th through 8th grade, and didn't have any sports programs for the most part. And our crowning extracurricular activity was chess. So I played chess growing up. Happened to have a great group of teachers, including the women's world champion during her time, Susan Pogar from Hungary. The first Black Grandmaster, Maurice Ashley, was one of the teachers in the school. So and Gerald Times was our principal teacher, and we just had the great fortune of being part of the Harlem Educational Activities Fund and that program, and that afforded us, ways out of New York City. Like New York City, if people are not familiar, can operate like a vacuum. Like people who live there typically don't leave. So for us, we were able to go to tournaments and go away to different places, to Connecticut, to Tennessee, to Arizona, trips that we took to play in, you know, city tournaments, national tournaments, and eventually, you know, and in some cases, some money tournaments that we enjoyed as kids. It's definitely
okay. That's always good.
Yeah, exactly. Quite the experience to play for money and play at some of the most famous places like the Manhattan Chess Club and in a couple of cases Foxwoods, which were big money tournaments. And I think that really helped to shape a lot of us who participated in it. And you know, we were national champions 2 years running. And you know, just the lessons that we took from that and the way that we think, it's just, I credit a lot of it to having that lineage and, you know, the ability to strategize and think through problems and problem solving. I personally was national champion in my division in 7th grade.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah. It pays dividends even, you know, decades after. So, it was just a great experience. You know, and it's funny because I look back now and in a lot of the startups and the things that I'm working on, and, you know, it's such a valuable thing to have as something that, you know, we went through. So, but yeah, from middle school, I ended up going to high school in Massachusetts. I did a boarding school program through a national program called A Better Chance, and which takes Black and Latino students from inner cities and gives them an opportunity to study either at a private school or, in my case, at a top public school in typically a wealthier area. I lived in a house with a resident director, resident tutor. You know, we just had a lot of resources at the program that helped us to get to where we needed to be, and you know, really set me up for reaching my goal, which, you know, I knew I wanted to go to Duke ever since, you know, I was 7 years old. I knew that was kind of like my top choice. So, applied early decision and got into Duke University, and, you know, lived in North Carolina for 4 years, studied economics and Italian, and took part in several initiatives at the university and to help, you know, low-income students have more resources at the university to be able to succeed. Since then, so yeah, family, upbringing, passion. I mean,
so before you go to the passion, the upbringing in the Bronx, how was that? Because we hear the Bronx and we hear, it's really good for us to have someone that can tell us the actual stories. You know, how was it growing up in there? You know, transitioning through your life as a young man and growing up. How was that? You know, the pull on the streets and all that was going on. How, you know, tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in the Bronx was tough. I mean, yes. there were some good parts where we lived. It depends on what neighborhood you lived in. And at first I lived in a pretty decent neighborhood. And then there were moments where I lived in the wrong part of town, and there are a lot of tough parts in the Bronx. And, you know, I think that it's part of the reason for why I decided to leave. To give you a little bit more insight, I actually applied to boarding school behind my mom's back and got in.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And, like, you know,
how was that?
Oh, it was, you know, in some ways it felt like a defense mechanism, you know, because you know, it was growing up there. Like I tell people, it was crazy. Like I got, you know, mugged for like my McDonald's, and, like, you know, I was doing a lot of stuff. And, you know, we had the Bronx and our neighborhoods in the mid 90s were tough. There were tough places to grow up, and there was an olive branch that came my way when I heard about boarding school, and I had gone into Bronx Science, which is one of the top public schools in the country, and I was like, I can't, I can't stay. I gotta go. So yeah. So I told my mom I had a school related activity. I took the SSAT, and got in. Got good enough scores to get into the program, and ended up making my way over to high school to kind of get away from the challenges that were there. But growing up in the Bronx was definitely an experience that was very, it drove me and it gave me an understanding of what my community needed. I always kind of had a sense of, I know I'm leaving, but something's going to bring me back to kind of assess what's going on. But at the time I feel like I just kind of got an opportunity to leave, and that was a protection for me, like getting out of there and being able to just focus on making it to the next level.
That's right. Wow. Now your siblings, you said your family is still there. Who all is back in New York in the Bronx?
I mean,
did I say that right? Is it New York and then the Bronx, or what how is it? The Bronx is in New York?
Correct.
It's a park. Okay.
So the Bronx. So if you look at Oakland and you think East Oakland, West Oakland,
got you.
Uptown, all of those sections, for us, they exist as boroughs, right? And those boroughs, we have 5 boroughs in New York: the Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And those 5 make up New York City. So I've lived, in Manhattan, and I've lived in the Bronx, and I briefly lived in Queens, but I don't even really count that. That didn't. It wasn't a real thing. I was in high school by then, and but yeah, my sisters, one of them lives in the Bronx still, and the other one lives in Connecticut, and my cousins, who I consider like my brothers and sisters, some of them are in a lot of them are still in New York City, and there are a couple of them upstate, and in Connecticut as well. And yeah, for the most part, everybody's still there,
Okay.
Capacity.
Right on. So with that, when you were talking about school and having the opportunity to get out, that is what our kids need also, the opportunity to be abroad, to go somewhere different, to be able to go into another environment, because we have kids that have not even left one side of Oakland, or the others. It's crazy, but opportunities that kids need to have, I believe, is being able to expose them to other. And I love that they had, not only, you guys didn't have sports, but you had chess. Chess is one of the, that's critical thinking skills, teaching folks how to critically think and how to not move so fast, but think about what you're doing before you do it. Those type of skills that the kids need today, calculative moves. If this happened, this is going to happen. If this happened, because unfortunately, some of our kids, they don't have that. And it's like, okay, you just move with the emotions and what you hear other people doing, and not thinking about what can truly happen to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the ability to plan ahead and plan several moves ahead.
Yes.
And figure out what else is going on that is a force that's countering what you're trying to do.
Yes.
And understand that there are just different forces in the world that are working in different directions, right?
Absolutely.
that you just kind of have to be mindful of what other people are trying to do and what you're trying to do, and understanding what your goals are, and try to kind of have a winning mentality in all of that, right? And it's not always to kind of react, it's really to think and to be mindful, and to kind of, at one point, it's funny, I didn't get it until a while later, but we did do Tai Chi, and our chess coach brought in a Tai Chi teacher, and I was a little bit like, what? I don't understand what, like, what's going on here? Like, shouldn't we be behind the board? And he was like, what? I want you guys to focus on breathing. I think, kind of being in the moment and understanding, and taking that into these tournaments, because I mean, I don't know if you've seen Queen's Gambit or any chess movie, but Queen's Gambit does a good job of like the intensity in the room that you feel, and just having to focus in that, and just all you hear is clocks, clack, 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 right? And like you are in a zone where and there's just rows of chessboards, and it's just a very intense space, and just being able to kind of stay focused. And that was just
I hear when you say that to me, that brings up life. It taught you how to tune out the other. And that's what our kids need to do, is tune out everything else of the other distractions and stay focused. And when you said, that's what came to my mind. And that was the beauty about what I seen that you guys were able to do, was that you were able to shut it out, focus, and think about what your next move, what you're gonna, what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna equate that to whether it's chess or whether it's basketball, whether it's some type of activity where it's important to be mentally prepared, so that you can play the game the way that you want to play the game. But if all the outside stuff continues to come in, then it dictates the way that you play the game. And so that was one thing. And the second thing that I was going to say was, to the point of being from a place and not having the opportunity to leave that place.
Yeah.
We did a program, I remember in high school, called Outward Bound.
Yes.
And that was part of the reason for why I want to go to boarding school. I remember the day that I heard about it for the first time, is that I saw a brochure and I saw trees. And I was like, in New York City, we don't have trees. So I'm trying to go to where the trees are.
Right.
So for me, like, that next level was going through a program like Outward Bound. And that exposure to the outdoors that, again, in hindsight, was really important in my formative years, to have that exposure that early on. And there is one organization here in Oakland, in the East Bay, that is working on connecting Black and brown folks to the outdoors. That I wanted to kind of let you know, in case you didn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's called Yes Families.
Okay.
And it's an organization that we recently came across. One of our friends works there, the program manager or coordinator. And yeah, I mean, these programs are really important to make sure that we have that exposure, and that, it almost feels like having the license as well to feel like because if you feel like these spaces are like another planet, then you won't seek it, right? And then I heard from somebody recently when I was there, who said, I'm from Oakland, and this is my first time journeying to the outdoors, and I'm in my mid-40s. And I'm like, that's interesting to me, because like, that's not too different than what goes on in New York City. And these bridges back to nature are important, and definitely give, are regenerative for people, or place for people to kind of reset. So yeah, I mean, I also ski, and I think skiing again. There are other things that I got exposed to because of high school, fortunately. And there are things where I'm like, there's nothing like being on the top of a mountain. And it's,
yes.
you know, and going down a mountain and picking your roads and the way that it kind of is, you know, it's like a allegorical in like,
yeah,
you know, like you just pick all these paths and, you know, you got to stick with it. There's only one way down from there, right? Like,
that's absolutely, and you really got to focus on going down. You definitely have to focus because one wrong move, it's over.
Yeah,
wow, that's
how you are. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So,
man,
yeah, I mean, I just
you know, and go ahead. I was getting ready to say, tell us about your wife and your son. How did you meet your wife?
I lived in Washington, D.C., and we met one night dancing. So I
all right.
Yeah, I love dancing, and you know, one of
Me
my
too.
yes, it's just like it's great. It's kind of one of my many interests, and we met dancing one night, and one of my friends, my fraternity brothers, introduced us, and you know, that night we met that one day, and she went to Berkeley and lived out here in California, and I'm an East Coast guy, and you know, I had never been to California. So we met that one time. We were just friends, and then 2 years later, she came back to Washington, D.C. for a program. And it just so happened that year, I also went to California like 6 times because I was like, this place is great. Like, how come nobody ever told me about this place that, you know, this different country that exists here in the U.S.
Right.
But during our time there, yeah, I kind of we just continued to go out and connect, and you know, at some point, you know, I asked her on a date, and it was Valentine's Day. My boss at the time had tickets to a children's play, and that was our first date. We just went to watch this children's play, and then we went back to my boss's house and to you know, kind of listen to music and hang out, and you know, from there just kind of evolved.
Awesome. And you have how old is your son?
He just turned 4.
Oh,
so he
busy.
Yeah, he just started paying rent. So
okay, that's good.
But he's good, you know. He's like a super extrovert. He's mom and dad and like something else. I don't know, you know, what gene has been activated, but he is, you know, he's quite the talker and very, you know, the pandemic has been tough because he just wants to be around people. But he loves dinosaurs. And,
wow.
And you know, it has endless energy like any other 4-year-old boy. And yeah, I mean, it was I tell people of all the things that I do, you know, my biggest goals, you know, since I was a kid was to have a family and like have a son or daughter and have a wife. And, you know, here I am, and, you know, kind of going against the odds, you know, like I grew up in a neighborhood and family where a lot of people didn't get married, and, you know, here we are. We officially got married a couple of months ago, actually. So we had a thank you. Yeah. So, you know, it was magical. Like, I didn't get it. Honestly, I tell people I didn't understand it. And like, of course I've been to weddings, and, you know, it always felt a little bit disconnected to me. Mm-hmm. Having gone through it, I was like, oh, I get why people say it's a big deal, you know? And again, kind of being like a Black Latino male and just not having seen that growing up.
Yeah.
I'm always asking, right? I was always curious about, you know, what makes a long marriage last? Mm-hmm. What does it mean to be a good husband? What, you know, always kind of my mentor in high school, who happened to be the resident tutor at the program, a lot of, who I attribute a lot of my social emotional growth to, and having, a father figure that instilled that in me. I would always ask him these questions, and I would ask people, successful couples, these questions, and just continue to tap the tree to figure out what the secrets were.
That's right.
To it, and see if obviously that I could see that I could continue to do it in my own family, but also pass that knowledge down,
Yes.
because again, like I feel like for a lot of different reasons, there's a lot of breaks, like there's a lot of brokenness in family structures and everything that we've seen, and kind of understanding what it means to have this rebirth. And I feel like I definitely have been part of a rebirth in this area, and so yeah, I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. And now touch a little bit, before you go into your passion, touch a little bit about your experience at Duke University.
Honestly, it was funny. It's funny because I tell people, it wasn't perfect, but like the journey of it was, like the experience of it was, like even the things that I was fighting for, the things that I would challenge the administration on, because it was like all of these different things that I would see and say, okay, well, we need to continue to be better, like anything, right? Like you always want to continue to work on something to help make it better. But being at Duke was, I don't know, it was like it was kind of like a dream for 4 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And the relationships that I made, and the people, like obviously being around so many bright people and connecting with so many resources, and just kind of, also just being on, to me, like outside of Stanford, maybe the most beautiful campus I've ever been on. And like I got to spend 4 years there. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures or.
No.
It's
amazing.
Beautiful. If the gardens and the way that things, it just feels like majestic,
Yes.
And it was great. It was great. The connections that I made, the networks, the basketball games, obviously, for those of you who follow our program. And yeah, it was just, I felt, very privileged to have, walked through those doors and graduated in 4 years, and, have been back a couple of times, and yeah, it was an amazing experience.
That's great. That's great. So now tell us a little bit about your passion. What's your passion? What are your passions?
I mean, that's a great question, because the framing of passion, I'm passionate about many things. I tell people I'm pretty lighthearted unless I'm talking about the condition of the poor.
Gotcha.
And what needs to kind of be improved on. Outside of that, I'm pretty just like laid back and but my passion, I would say at this moment, has definitely fallen into the realm of food and environmental justice, and figuring out, again, like having a 4-year-old, what it means for us to build the world moving forward. I think what's happened has been a complete reset and an opportunity for us to take things in a direction 100 miles per hour in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And for me, I think I mentioned last time we spoke, I'm working on a startup that focuses on helping people eat and live healthy, sustainable lives through meal delivery and through literacy and a combination of the two. It's completely, I think, going to revolutionize the space. But it was born out of me being in East Harlem, back in New York, walking around and like having had my own challenges with I was eating the wrong foods and I was getting a form of leprosy on my skin. I had nosebleeds. I had different just challenges with my health, and I was kind of looking around for a healthy place to eat, and I couldn't find anything that was suitable to my needs. And then what made matters worse is that I walked by the local Burger King and I saw that they were taking EBT benefits.
Wow.
And at that point, I hadn't connected the dots in my journey, and obviously I had gone away for high school, and where for me in high school, getting a Burger King into town was a fight. But when I go back to New York, it's fully institutionalized. And at that point, I realized that chronic disease is actually fully institutionalized. And that many of us are part of what we call on our team a crib to chronic disease pipeline, right? So the fact that the likelihood that you're going to end up with a chronic disease if you're an American is 1 in 2. And if you're Black or Latino, that increases by about 10%, right? So that already means that, we are positioning our children to play from behind. And if you're not connecting that to education, and you're not connecting that to the fact that we're number 19 in education across the world, and that number's been plummeting, and other countries are leapfrogging us, it's because, we don't have our fundamentals right.
Right.
And
that leads right into my next question is, why did you choose your profession, or did your profession choose you? Go right ahead and tell us about what you're actually doing in your businesses.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was a meeting. It was like a meeting of the two. Like, I think, I chose it. It crossed my path. It was, it was undeniable when I saw it, and I kind of realized that this is what I wanted and needed to use my skills and resources and energy and time to do. And that, some of the problems that we're solving are like, they're problems that money alone have not and cannot solve. So it has to be born out of our community. It has to be. There's just a level of, it's been a deep voyage and a lot of research, uncovering what was really going on and figuring out how to create a recipe that I think is gonna kind of change the space, right? And so that's kind of how that came about. And sorry, your second question?
No. So it was, you're sharing exactly what I wanted you to share. And that was, why did you choose your career or a profession, or did it choose you? And tell us about the two businesses that you do have, and the one that's working with the food and the one that's doing the other piece.
Sure. So I'm part of a family-owned food business here in Oakland, and we do we have a couple of concepts now. So healthy Californian cuisine and healthy Mexican cuisine, and it's a family-owned, family-run business that we started about a year and change ago. And, it exists to kind of give us it's given us a sandbox to really continue to understand the food space even more intimately. And it just so happens that on the back end, we've launched a tech startup that's focused on food. And we do, it's what we call is a discovery platform for healthy and sustainable food that's personalized to your dietary needs, restrictions, values. And basically, we equate it to teaching people to code. Like, a lot of people don't know how to, the health literacy rate in the US is 12%, right? And and again, getting health support, I mean, can cost thousands. Like personalized nutritional support can run people $6,000, $10,000 to get. And then if you go through an educational path, then obviously you're picking up a tab. But again, it kind of goes to show us that, the fact that our chronic disease rates are really high and that we don't have much support when it comes to helping make the best decisions. And, that's connected with the fact that our literacy rate is pretty low. So we're creating a tool that makes it pretty easy for anyone to pick up and have the tools in place to build a healthier, more sustainable lifestyle, and then be able to really leverage the platform to get the food delivered straight on.
Got you. And what's the name of the businesses? And how can people go and check them out?
Yeah, the food business is Cafe 15, and it's just cafe15.com spelled out for people to learn more. And the food business is called The Orange Market. And the launch page is tom-app.com, Tom with a dash and app. And right now we are in the test phase. So people are, live on the app, but we are, kind of like anything, we're just taking it, test driving it and making sure that it's doing exactly what we wanted to do before we really go out there and, let the world know, and let it be the machine that it needs to be, so that we can make these big shifts happen.
Well, it's time for revolutionary thinking and moving towards that. So, we want to thank you for you and your team thinking about our future and thinking about our kids and thinking about this is what our ancestors did for us. We're standing on their shoulders, their backs, and they thought about us as they were making their decisions and moves as they went through their lives. Even though the struggles and the things that they went through, they still were thinking about a better place for us to live and be. And you're doing the same for yourself, your family, and the community, and your son. So we say kudos to you for that. So what are you doing around self-care? I know you said about the food and thinking, so food justice. Food justice means what to you? What do you mean? When I say food justice, what does that mean if someone was to hear that?
I think it's really around understanding how food impacts you and how the food choices that we make actually impact us, and how are those ecosystems, how those environments around food, whether it's a grocery store, or the lack of a grocery store, or whether it's just the food that's available to you, how is that really designed, right? Everything is by design, and that's kind of part of how we conceptualize things, and whether it's conscious or subconscious, whether it's on purpose or whether it was by mistake, there was a design, right?
Yes.
And so how are people interacting with that design, and how are people understanding that not only the second that they put the food into their mouths, but the second that the food is grown, and even before that, how was it grown? And understanding the entire food journey, understanding the food journey and the food story of your food in connection to your personal food story, right? So if I were to ask you, and this is something that we're going to be talking about pretty soon with our community, is how has food impacted your life? And do you how, and what is your perspective around food?
Right.
And when I think about the diabetes, the chronic disease, the obesity, all the different pieces that are at play, and understand that, a lot of us, at least from the data, have been victimized by it, this reality. So how can we kind of create engagement around that and understand how we can change food outcomes moving forward?
And I love how the schools are now taking on giving, while the kids are sitting there, they're giving them snacks, they're giving them vegetables and things that they would normally not eat, but they would eat, and it's introducing them to something different at a early age and educating them, like you just said, on that type of food. And it gives the parents an opportunity to be able to create something different versus just, going to the McDonald's. You can probably go into the grocery store and you can get a carrot, get a potato, get some water, cut it up, put some, some seasoning, and then you have a healthy soup or something else that can go in there. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean,
because I know that the food that you create is very, very healthy and it tastes good, so go ahead. Tell us about the love that you all put in that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely, a lot of it is a labor of love, and
yes,
and it's really, like you said, getting all of these ingredients and things that in some cases we've never really been exposed to.
Yes.
And then allowing people to try it, in a way, I think Oakland's a little bit different than a lot of places. DC even is a little bit different than a lot of places, because you do have a lot of great people who are champions for better food in these markets. But we're still fighting against, overarching system that is designed to, kind of help, like designed to play on our impulses to make the quickest decision, not necessarily the best decision. And right now it's not. There are 2 points to this decision making. It's what's going to help you live your healthiest life, and also what is going to be forward thinking when it comes to making a selection that's going to get us to where we need to be with the food system. And again, when we look at climate, the way that we grow food is very important to our collective need to fight climate change. So all of these things are factored into our algorithms and the way that our platform works. And these are concepts that can sometimes be elusive, especially on a day-to-day basis, that we need to put into people's, everyday ability to make a decision. And in our effort to really make every meal count, right? At this point in time when we have...
Right. And putting the people... You're putting people back in control of their lives and what they, versus what the advertisement is sending out for you for healthy foods. And that there again is why a lot of the fast food chains make the food so cheap, as you were saying, and you can go get a burger for 2 for $5 or $1 or something like that, because you already know it's going to, it gears you towards that obesity and what is it? The chronic illnesses,
right?
That
and
it end up creating.
And that's exactly right. And then the challenge is that money is actually being paid on the back end, right? Because somebody with chronic disease is actually costing the system $10,000 a year to treat it, right? So instead of investing money into making sure that people are eating healthier, we're doing a disservice to people, because we've made the cost per calorie for every meal that we eat for mass produced food really low. And that again goes, yes, it's on the front end, it's cheaper for the consumer, but on the back end, you're paying for it with your performance, with your lack thereof, because people are sick, and also with the chronic disease treatment costs that we're experiencing. Now, if you add the pandemic into that equation, we're talking about an exacerbated number. And this is these are the dynamics that we're kind of working feverishly to combat, because again, our people are dying at higher rates. And like, I mean, I've had a couple of pretty close stories where friends of ours and their family members are just undergoing really long treatments, trying to fight off COVID. And like, we're not in position to have a healthy population that can better recover from getting sick. And at this point, there's a reason for why people of color are dying at higher rates and are spending longer times at the hospital. Right? There's a reason for why lower income people in general, whatever background they're a part of, are going through these similar issues. So this is the stuff that is at the forefront of what we're doing. And I tell people, I'm like, I believe that what we're doing has the potential to make the Affordable Care Act actually work.
Wow.
This is how we're doing. You want to understand the grandeur of why we're dedicating our time and ourselves to create this platform? It's because we believe it could be that important and that big.
And the people that you have on your team works in these areas. Tell us a little about what folks are actually on the team, and what is their background and what they do.
Sure. So I have a couple of software engineers, work at Apple, and work at a major institution. Very talented. Fortunate.
Kudos to the team. Go ahead.
Yeah, kudos to the team. We have a product manager who has experience with major companies that I will not disclose, but
right. No.
And we have a new teammate who is focused on. She does a lot of design thinking, so she focuses on that. Went to MIT with a background in education and sustainability. So we have a good young core. Not to mention the people who are extended people who are and we'll be creating more of these opportunities in delivery and obviously as opportunities come our way from our vendors, from the restaurants and food companies that we're working with, that will have more people who will need cooking jobs and so like all those opportunities are going to continue to present themselves. So yeah, we have a great young technical core and like a young community that we're forming and that we're currently growing.
Again, how can the people contact you? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so for me, just contact me at brian@tom-app.com. And you can find us on Instagram at The Orange Market, straight on. And
why did you guys name it the Orange Market? What was the thought behind that?
So I work off of a parable. So there are two orange salesmen. One sells more oranges than the other, but the other one sells higher quality oranges. Who's the better business person? So for us, if you answer that question is in the eye of the beholder, but it tells you a lot about what you value, right? Right. So for us, quality and insurance.
That's what I was going to say, the quality, the higher one, because it's going to be good.
You know that it's good. You know that it's nutrient. Yeah. You know that it's going to nourish your body, and you know that you're not putting, unwanted agents into your biochemistry.
Wow.
So there in there lies part of the equation. And to us, orange symbolizes the color of leadership.
Yeah.
It's something that we tell people is a whole fruit. But when you break it apart, it has all these individual components that are connected by intricate networks. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's who we are. Yeah, we may look like people on the outside, but there's so much that goes into us and so much potential that we have. And it's a pretty deep thing for us. And we believe that
I love that concept. It's awesome.
And we call it
So
Tom.
my next,
Everybody
go
calls it
ahead.
Tom for short. So
Say it again.
everybody calls the orange market Tom for short.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we definitely gonna be pushing that and letting folks know about the orange market or Tom. So the word freedom, when you hear this word freedom, what does it mean or what stands out to you? Freedom.
I think it's the liberty to be creative, to be imaginative, to kind of live in a fulfilled way, live in a way that's purposeful. You know, I think the word freedom can be in some ways deceiving. You know, I think there are some ideas that people have about freedom that, you know, may not be formed by your concept of freedom. So it's discovering and imagining
Got you.
to you, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't have.
Well, thank you.
Great. So that's what.
That's right. So that leads right into my last question for you. And that last question would be, what would you like to create, share, or give to the world for your legacy?
I would say, I mean, what I'm fighting for is to create a clear collective path to reducing the impact of climate change. Like this is what I'm fighting for, like ultimately, and that our children, you know, beyond the greenwashing, beyond a lot of people saying that we're making changes and doing things, that we can collectively be part of the equation and give our children a future that they can enjoy. You know, I definitely think we have a critical next, you know, 7 to 9 years ahead of us in this fight. And, you know, I think that it's tough because I feel like there's so many of us who have not been given an opportunity to participate in this. Right? We've just, it's time for us to really collectively leave a legacy, and all be part of this equation. And so, yeah, for us to kind of, you know, continue to co-create this together.
Absolutely. Well, you know, as you said, I believe this is the time that through the pandemic is for us to be, and COVID-19 is for us to be able to pivot, to be able to now come with something new. How do we create for all, not just a certain class of people, but how do we really create a healthy world for all? Right. So, you know, go ahead. You were
that's what I was going to say. Like, even though ultimately that's the goal.
Yeah.
First step is collective health. Like that's my biggest claim right now, is that we can't get to climate change if we don't fix the health thing. Absolutely. And this is the glaring challenge in front of us that we need to change now.
Well, Mr. Bryant, B-H Brilliant Minds Project Inc. will continue to invite people to celebrate with us on our virtual Juneteenth 196 2020 special edition. And again, we're so grateful and thankful that you have allowed us to interview you, to tell your story, to tell your legacy, because it's our responsibility and duty. And how we came up with Juneteenth 196 is that if you were to count from June the 19th to December the 31st, it's 196 days. So that's how the ancestors gave us this idea of our virtual. This is our 13th year. So we were able to do something special and different since we couldn't get out in the community to celebrate like we normally do. We get this opportunity to do something special. And this is our special edition. So with that, our theme for this year was we are the breath of our ancestors. We will never break because we are history shakers and makers. And this is in honor of acknowledging that Black culture, Black minds, Black breath, and Black lives do matter. And we are saying it loud because we're Black and proud and brown and proud. And we definitely want to thank our sponsor, the Win-Rose Fund of the Common Council Foundation. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to have this opportunity to do our virtual Juneteenth 196. And we're so grateful and thankful that people can go and see the different interviews, music, dance, and all of that creative energy and thought that we as a people have put together for others to enjoy. And we definitely want to, as a reminder again, to remind folks that if you have participated in this session, you give the B.H. Brilliant Minds Project, Inc. the authorization to record you, your voice, your comments, and take your picture for to go up on our website and on our YouTube channel. How you can get this sessions, and for the Juneteenth 196, you can go to our website, and it's B-HBrilliantMinds Project, B-HBrilliantMinds.org. B-HBrilliantMinds.org. It's B.H. Brilliant Minds Project, Inc., but however, that's our name, but our website is www.bhbrilliantminds.org. And we want to thank again our sponsor, Win-Rose Fund of the Common Council Foundation. Mr. Brown, if you had any parting last words, we'll give it over to you and then we'll be done.
Well, thank you for having me. And, there are definitely, these are pretty, deep and important topics that we get to kind of unpack. And I feel really privileged to be able to chat with you all about it. And again, kind of continue to, build some awareness around these challenges and help people feel, empowered to be part of the conversation in any way we can.
And we definitely want to thank you again and your family. Tell the family thank you for taking our time, because we know family time is so important. Again, tell the wife we said thank you, tell the family, and tell your son, give him a big old hug and kiss. Most definitely make sure during this holiday season, please wear your mask, do your social distancing, and continue to keep people in your prayers. And we want to thank you again for tuning in to be a part of our Juneteenth 196